Hello, N4H&H here, and that was a POTA station that I just chased, and I wanted you to hear that because, I've said this before, and I've especially said it to my wife, you just can't have too many antennas. So look at his signal right now. That's my ZS6 Bravo Kilo Whiskey that I purchased from ni4l.com. And wow, Chris does such a great job building the ZS6 BKW. It just doesn't even make sense to try to make one on your own, especially with the quality of materials that he uses. But I wanted you to see the difference. I'm going to switch over to one of my other antennas. That's my 160 meter doublet. That's 250 feet of wire fed in the middle with ladder line. You know, the assumption is, well, if you got a longer wire and you're using it on a higher frequency, the assumption is it's always better. But, you know, if you study these doublet family antennas, antennas where you've got some ladder line involved, they will develop gain, yes, at the higher frequencies, and with that gain also comes some nulls. So you're going to have major, what we call lobes. If you look at the video I shot about how antennas develop gain, there's some more info about that. But you develop these lobes, but then you have these nulls, and the lobes can be where the lobes are. You can have very, very strong gain, but then you'll have nulls, and that changes according to the band. So you can't really plan ahead of time and say, well, I'll put the antenna and orient it a certain way. Now, with a dipole that's cut just for the band that you're going to operate, you get pretty much a figure 8 pattern, broadside to the wire. Again, that can be skewed a little bit by surrounding objects, the height above ground, things like that. But in general, it's about a figure 8 pattern. And in fact, when I first was licensed, let me turn it down a little bit. I'll put it back on the ZS6 BKW. When I was first licensed in 1982, I built all my antennas, verticals and horizontals, and 15 meters was the first band I operated. And what I did was I put up 2 dipoles cut just for 15 meters, and I put them perpendicular to one another, spaced them apart a little bit, and I had an antenna switch to select between the two. And indeed, I could sometimes pick a signal up better on one antenna than on the other. And if you watch my video on diversity receive, you'll see how having a dual receiver can really capitalize on that concept. But so I do encourage you to go back and watch the diversity receive video if you want to learn more about how you can actually do it without having to switch back and forth between antennas. But just understand that with multi-band antennas, such as a doublet, ZS6 BKW, G5RV, all center-fed dipoles, antennas that are operating on a band that they're not exactly cut to length for, they will develop on each band various lobes and nulls. So, that being the case, what's happening here could be propagation, of course, but it also could be the fact that this station right now, this POTA station, is operating in an area where I have a null on the ZS6, a lobe on the ZS6 BKW and a null with the 160 meter dipole. So, let me see if I can, I'm looking up here on the POTA post here to find out where he is. Richard Bong State Recreation Center. Let me see where that is. It's in Wisconsin. Okay, so it's possible that I do have a null on the doublet in that direction, because I do know there's a null for certain parts of Canada, a certain part of Canada. But you know what? This is why I tell my wife you can't have too many antennas, because it's worked out for me perfectly that with the ZS6 BKW from ni4l and the 160 meter doublet that I built, when one's, when they're fading on one, they're coming up on the other, or vice versa. Sometimes they may overlap and they'll be equal, and then sometimes the 160 meter dipole wins. I can tell you this: the ZS6 BKW exhibits the better signal to noise ratio all the time, hands down. And it has to do, part of the problem is that the 160 meter doublet has so much gain in the directions where it has lobes that it's more prone to picking up local noise, like a plasma TV or a wireless phone charger, and or our computer-controlled dryer. So, that helps a little bit. The Z. But here's the thing: even if I have somebody lower on the ZS6 BKW as far as the gain is concerned, I hear them better a lot of times because of the better signal to noise ratio. And remember, if you've watched any of my videos about signal to noise ratio, that's what it's all about. It's not about that meter right there. Forget that. As a matter of fact, I can tell you right now, because of the filtering I have enabled, and I've talked about this many times, this is my digital width. I've got a 300 hertz crystal filter engaged. Look at the S meter pop up when I turn off the digital width. And that's because at this point, and you're still not hearing a whole lot of noise, because look how quiet the band is. He's actually a 559. That's running just off the 300 hertz crystal filter. Now I'll change to a 600. I'll turn off audio peak filter. I'll turn off digital noise reduction. There's if you watch some of my videos in the past, you've seen more about that in detail. Okay, so back to, I'll just turn on the 300 hertz filter first. I'm going to put it in auto mode. Okay, now when I turn on the digital width and set it down to, let me pan over there so you can see. Okay, there we go. I'm going to set it to, it's at 50 hertz. See, now if I go above 300, it's going to switch automatically while it's in auto mode. Look, it switched to the 600 hertz crystal roofing filter. So I'll tell you what, I'll leave it focused on that screen, and I'm going to lower the digital width. I'm going to tighten it up. See, as soon as I drop to 300 or less, it automatically switches over to the physical roofing filter that's 300 hertz wide. Not all radios have physical roofing filters. This radio does. So does the FTDX10, the FTDX101. You've seen me feature the FTDX10 on the channel, but some of the SDR radios out there, I should say the ones that are in the lower cost range, will not even have a physical roofing filter. But when you combine the physical roofing filter with the digital width, it can be tremendous. Now, there's 300. Here comes DSP width, 250, 200, 150, 100, and 50. Now already that's cleaned it up a lot, but look at the S meter. Let me move back over there. Okay, see, I just turned off the digital filter. Look at that signal come up, but so does the noise. Digital filter narrow, noise goes away, signal goes down. Remember, if you look at the block diagram on the video I shot about, I did a block diagram breakdown and explanation of a modern HF receiver. The AGC circuit, automatic gain controls, driving the meter, it's way after the filters, so they do affect the amount of voltage that is driving that meter up. So again, I say all that to say this: don't get hung up on an S meter. You know that, you guys that have been on the channel a while. So 50 hertz knocks it down. 600 hertz, it comes back up. Because right now I've turned digital width off and it's running off that 600 hertz filter. But isn't it much more pleasant to listen to with it narrowed down to 50? And look, I haven't even turned on digital noise reduction. Listen to this. No digital noise reduction. Digital noise reduction. And now for the icing on the cake, audio peak filter. I showed this in the last video, my tic-tac-toe board here. APF, audio peak filter, digital width, digital noise reduction. Of course, this is the FTDX 5000. Other radios have similar features. So anyway, again, this is an antenna discussion, but I migrate over to talk about signal to noise ratio because everything factors in. As you can see, the antenna though, first step in that. You know, if you don't drag it in off the air, then the radio doesn't have to do so much filtering, and it's a much happier place to be. So if you don't worry about the S meter reading, then you know you're going to help it out first of all with the antenna. And those of you who have beams, you know what I'm talking about too. A beam, because of its rejection, is also nulling out noise in directions you don't really want to hear. And so that's another way to improve signal to noise ratio. Of course, the nulls of these doublet type antennas, like the ZS6BKW, it's in the family with the doublet, and the doublet itself, you know, they have nulls, which are also, of course, blocking noise in that direction. But, you know, just try to take care of it first at the antenna. Improve your signal to noise ratio at the antenna. And in my case, the ZS6BKW generally exhibits the best signal to noise ratio. Now, what you could do, you could say, well, but if I do look at the S meter, relatively, not concerned about where it is reading, but let's just say that I was looking at it and I noticed that his signal was a little stronger on the doublet, but more noise is coming in with it. You, of course, if you have a radio like the 5000 and other radios on the market that have the option for a dedicated receive antenna, you can hook your, you know, maybe have an antenna switch where you can switch it in and out, but use the ZS6BKW for a receive antenna. For example, this radio has a button right here that can force my radio to only receive off the receive antenna port. This radio has 5 antenna ports on the back, and one of them is dedicated for just receive. And what will happen is, if you switch that button, if I had the ZS6BKW connected here, I would be listening on the ZS6BKW, but transmitting on whichever antenna I've got selected with this button here, and is shown in the display 1 through 4. So you can transmit on the antenna that has the best gain for you on transmit, if it were, for example, my 160 meter dipole, and sometimes it is. But receive on the antenna that has the better signal to noise ratio. That's the beauty of having that dedicated receive port. And some of you have written in, and yes, it's true, they did not put that on the FTDX10. That is an unfortunate thing. They could have put something as simple as an RCA jack back there, and you know, let you hook an antenna up to it, and maybe you know, another toggle on the screen, because it is, you know, display driven. So that is a little bit unfortunate that the FTDX10 does not include that option. However, the 101D or MP, of course, does have that option. So for those of you who might be considering that radio, and the 5000 has the option, and other radios on the market out there, of course, do feature the ability to have a dedicated receive antenna. So it just only uses that antenna when you unkey the mic. It works great with something called a beverage antenna, if you want to look that up and learn more about a beverage antenna. Talk about where you don't look at the S meter. I mean, a beverage antenna, forget the S meter. It's all about pulling them out of the weeds just so you can hear them. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed the video. Just wanted to shoot that right quick. I had that opportunity with the POTA station, and it just so happened today is one of those days where, you know, it's either having to do with propagation or where my null is in relation to where that station is. And I believe today it was having to do with the null of the doublet antenna versus where the lobe is for the ZS6BKW. And I guess I should mention this too. I've mentioned this on the channel in some of the comments. I encourage you guys, read the comments. There's a lot of extra information that gets put into the comments when I answer people or comment myself. the ZS6BKW is my best 40-meter antenna, hands down. None of my other antennas seem to ever win when it comes to 40 meters. That ZS6BKW is just golden on 40 meters, and I don't even need the tuner for it. If you know anything about the ZS6BKW, you will not need a tuner on 12, 17, 20, or 40. You know, you can touch up the ends if you want to. 10 meters, it's also resonant in the FM portion. If you've got a technician license, that is an area that you can't use, I'm afraid, but it is resonant in the FM portion of 10 meters, up 29.6 to 29.7 megahertz. But it is usable in the 28.3 to 28.5 range, where we use sideband, upper sideband, and technicians do have privileges there, but you'll need a tuner to touch it up there. Well, not just touch it up, to get it there. But anyway, just wanted to point all that out to you and talk about the antennas here, and the fact that, well, you just can't have too many antennas. And I think I've got my wife convinced of that. I'm working on it. Okay, thank you, Patreons, for helping me keep the channel going. I do really appreciate your partnership with me to keep this information flowing. I get comments a lot and emails thanking me for the information that people garner from the channel, new operators who are getting into amateur radio and seeking to learn, and so you guys are helping make that happen. Pat yourselves on the back. Thank you, Patreons. If anyone else would like to become a Patreon and help out with this endeavor, go to patreon.com/N4HNH. Patreon.com/N4HNH. And don't forget, if you would, please like the videos, subscribe to the channel. That helps immensely. It gets the word out. And like I've said before, there's strength in numbers as we grow this channel. Maybe we'll get some of the manufacturers to take more notice of our comments and our suggestions to improve the radios in the future. And hey, don't forget, if you do subscribe, click that bell so you'll be notified when I upload the next video. Okay, 73, and thanks for watching. This is N4HNH.